And I want to say hello, everyone, and welcome to an event I'm having trouble trying to characterize. I said this is a workshop, but it's not really a workshop. It's not a training. It's not it's an event. And uh, the reason I'm specifying that is that, how can I train someone to live out of their hearts? Like I'm going to bottle it. I'm going to sell it for 29.95, and if it doesn't work, you get your money back. What we've got is an opportunity for us to think about some things, and to maybe help each other through a battlefield that I navigated pretty much by myself. And hopefully you won't have to. And hopefully you can hold the flashlight for the next person while they're navigating their field. I remember when they had the big blackout in New York City, some decades ago, that there are people that were leaning out their apartment windows, and they had flashlights, and as people were walking down these amazingly dark streets, they were lighting each other's way. And no one asked them to do that. No one sanctioned them to do that. It's just kind of this human thing that we could do. And so we have to start lighting each other's way. And as we're doing that, I think that that's an important thing to do, important thing for us to do. Um, Before we get started, for real, I have to do something, which is give you a disclaimer. If you are participating in this, it means that you do not have immediate need for psychological, emotional, or physical or personal trauma. While you will gain new insights into the nature of your heart, these sessions will not take the place of competent professional diagnosis and treatment for serious psychological or emotional or physical personal trauma or pain. Now, I hope you understand why I have to say that. When I'm dealing in the territory of the heart, when I'm dealing with in the territory of how people are interacting with themselves, interacting with each other, etc., I have to be very careful that this isn't therapy. I don't know that you can get therapy through Zoom. I don't know that you can get heart help through Zoom in 2 hours for free. And so, so I say that, and it's really interesting the number of people who won't hear that. I was doing some live events some years ago, and I said, you will not, this is not therapy. We're talking about the heart, but we're talking about the heart in general and how our hearts are connecting to each other. If you need, professional care, this isn't it, and you should go get it. And after 2 or 3 sessions, this one participant said, "Oh, well, this isn't working for me. I need, kind of deep psychological care, and you're not giving it to us." And I'm like, "And which part of the disclaimer didn't you?" Didn't you follow? And he says, oh, I didn't think you were applying that to me. Okay. So I'm applying, yes, I'm applying all this to you, and I would appreciate it if we could um, focus ourselves on focus ourselves on ourselves, not focusing on your own personal trauma or your needs, etc. Um, let me get my notes in front of me here. Um, so in a way, what we're doing today is we're remembering who we truly are. This session came out of the work that I was doing with Ilarion McCureliff with Quill, and he was talking about us living in our hearts. And I could see people nodding, and I was nodding, but I also recognized that I suffered heart damage at a very early age. The emotional, environmental world that I was living in was highly traumatic, and and I lived through it, and had some bumps and bruises, and that I had to untangle from my heart. Um, a lot of us don't know how to do the untangling, though. A lot of us don't know what kind of what it takes for us to live the kind of life that Ilarion was talking about. We don't know how to live as, why am I so blurry? Goodness. Hmm, interesting. I need to, um, there's something is in my way here, and I'm trying to get it out of the way. It's YouTube. Um, okay. Um, it's not that my lens is dirty. Does everybody else see me as blurry? I mean,
Yeah.
this is not good. Now I'm clear. Okay. Um, and I hope YouTube is clear. Does everybody else see me as blurry? I mean, I'm YouTube is always 7 seconds behind um, me. So I have to put it so that I'm not looking at that guy who's 7 seconds behind me. Okay. Um, so um, our question of our wholeness, the question of our wholeheartedness, the kind of wholeheartedness that Ilarion was talking about, that is something that if you were raised in my society, and I'm assuming that you were, that's something that we need to heal ourselves from. That's something that we need to come to grips with and to understand. And if we understand the depth of the damage, we can then start seeing how we're living in a society that damages the heart. I want to give you two views of this right now, and then we're going to start talking about how our evening is going to progress. I had a friend, and she was experiencing the conflict of the heart, and she was she she apparently had everything going for her. Um, a couple of advanced degrees, including from Harvard. She had clients, she had work, everybody liked her, and she was known as the Catwoman in her neighborhood. And she always took in the stray cats that she saw in the neighborhood. And she was in a situation where she could not take two more stray cats in. So she committed suicide. All of her friends said that it had to be a murder, or it had to be, like, she would never have committed suicide. She was always posting the funniest and most uplifting and upbeat um, things on her Facebook page. The people are calling the police saying you have to investigate this as a murder. She would have never committed suicide. And all the people who said that had never spent 5 minutes with her. Because all it took was 5 minutes for you to recognize that this person had significant issues with the damaged heart. And our challenge in our society is that we keep trying to fix our trauma. We keep trying to fix our issues with our damaged heart by applying all of this head stuff. Okay. She was on antidepressants. She was getting tons of therapy. It wasn't none of this stuff was working because the entire approach was approaching through the head. And if you take nothing else from what I am dealing with today, the path to the heart does not lead through the head. What Alarian was saying was that the heart has to lead the head. We have to get to the part that we can trust our hearts, and trust our hearts to the point that we can take the direction of the heart and not get involved in all of the machinations of is this going to look right, or is this my id or my ego, or all of that stuff that keeps you from really being able to live in your heart and not in your head. So our challenge is, we have these signals of what it looks like or what it feels like for us to be heart-centered. But unfortunately, many of us have this notion of the heart. That is what the notion of heart-centeredness, the notion of love, as being what I call cute, fuzzy bunny love. Okay, I've got an image of this somewhere. Here we go. So when I made the phrase "creating a world that works for all," I put out on Google a spy bot that anybody who uses this phrase, I get to see their website. So someone used it, creating a world that works for all, recently, and I get several of these a day. Several people who are saying something about creating a world that works for all every day, and I got this recently, and my first thought was, "Oh, isn't that cute?" And my second thought was, what the heck does that have to do with creating a world that works for all living beings? you know, that can we cute our way into a fundamentally different society? And I got a couple of these. Oh, isn't that sweet? And the question is this super saccharine sweet approach to how we live our lives? If you are 5 years old or younger, then that's the path that's the direction you should be taking. But I would suggest to us that we need to have a more serious approach, and we need to have a an approach that's going to actually have an effect. It makes me think about, I'm still trying to focus my camera. I apologize for the camera focusing gremlins that are doing whatever they feel like doing right now. The opposite of that is a lot of people, but I just happen to choose William Penn because I had a convenient picture for him. 330 some odd years ago, William Penn started an experiment. And the experiment that he started was with a land grant given to him by the king over in what was considered a hunting preserve in the New World, that was called Pennsylvania. Was it possible to start a new kind of society, to create a society that was based on loving kindness? The question, and no one had ever done this before, so the question was, is this even possible? So he founded the city of brotherly love, Pennsylvania, and as a society that was based on love, it failed pretty miserably. I was born in Philadelphia, so I kind of know this is not the way you want to go. But the second part of the experiment was interesting. The second part of the experiment was the rural aspect, the part that we call the Pennsylvania Dutch country, we consider call the Amish country, the central Pennsylvania aspect of it. And that has been, over 330 years, a roaring success. There are people who live their lives in such a way that they act like they love each other. They act like they love the land. They act like they love their animals. They act like they love other human beings. Yes, it's possible to do that, and it's possible to make that big enough to encompass, well, all of central Pennsylvania. I don't know. Let me get a gallery view here for a second. How many of you have been to central Pennsylvania? How many of you have been to the Pennsylvania Dutch country? A few of you. It has a close to mystical quality to it. It is, well, I'm sorry, I'm telling you what I found when I was there. If I'm on the East Coast and if I have the time, I try to at least drive through there as frequently as I can. And I remember one time as I was going through the Pennsylvania Dutch country, it was a morning. I just left Washington, D.C., and I kind of went through Pennsylvania at an evening meeting in New York. And it was a foggy day, and I came around this corner and I saw a farmer in his field, and he had the old-fashioned hoe with horses in front, and he was plowing his field. And I realized that all of the DNA I was looking at had been on that field for generations. The farmer, the horse, the corn, all of it had been cultivated in that field. The field knew them. The field loved them, and he loved the field. And this had been going on for decades, if not centuries. Can any of us say that? Can any of us say that we know where our place is? I think I mentioned during one of the talks with Ilarion about my experience in Bali, where I was asking one of my Balinese friends about the rhythms of his life. He had just invited me to participate in one of his son's kind of a coming of age ceremony. He was doing a village dance. He was participating as a man in the village dance for the first time as a 12-year-old. And he was very serious. I enjoyed watching him with this dance. And I actually, since I'm mentioning this, I'm going to those who, all of you are signed up for for this. I've got your email addresses, and I'm going to write down Balinese Village Dance so that you can see both Langdon, the father, and his son. And we were sitting in the family compound. It's a beautiful Balinese night. How many have been to Bali? Okay, we'll do the next workshop in Bali. How about that? I'll supply the plane tickets. So we're sitting in the family compound, and it's a nice, warm rain that night. And so we're in the outdoor pavilion, and there are about 4 or 5, maybe 6 houses down this corridor that leads to the outdoor pavilion. And only his family is in this compound. And he's sitting like literally back to back with his son. He says, our family has been in this compound for longer than we know, at least 1,000 years. And he said, I'm the head of the family, and the people over there, and he pointed to a couple sitting in front of another house, and they were on their porch. He said, that's my mother and father. And they used to be in this house, the house I'm living in, but now they're retired, so they're sitting in the retirement house. And every time he pointed to them, they would wave. They didn't understand any English, but they just knew that, I must be somebody special, so they would wave. And and he said, when they die, we're going to plant them back there. That's the family cemetery where the family has been buried for the past 1,000 years. And he points to his son behind him, will move into the house that I'm in right now. And me and my wife will move over to the house where the mother and father are waving. And the other houses in this compound are will be occupied by his brothers, because the sisters are going to marry somebody outside of the family, and they'll go and live in their compound. And he says, my son doesn't have to do that. My son may go to college, he may do such and such, but if he knows he has a place to live, and we've always known it, and we've known it from the past 1,000 years. Now, that's something that heals your heart, where everybody knows, everybody gets that you have a place in this world. You literally, physically, three-dimensionally have a place in this world. And you have a place where you are loved, honored, respected, etc. And so how do we get to that? Because it's a two-way street. I mean, number one, some people who lived an authentic life set that up over 1,000 years ago, on the one hand. On the other hand, it gets maintained by people who are still in that heart space. It gets maintained because they were not colonized, they were not driven off their land, they were not. No one found oil in their rice paddies. And so we get to live, we get to get back to the state where we can start living heart-centered lives. But to live a heart-centered life, we need to know a little bit more about how the heart works. And I want to share that with you over the next maybe 10 minutes or so. And if you've got some questions after that, let's address them. Okay, so let's look at what we're talking about when I talk about the transcendent heart. So the physical heart, your blood pump here, and I hope everybody's got a good blood pump. Your blood pump has 4 chambers to it, and your heart looks exactly like that, by the way. This is a photo of a cartoon character's heart. Some of the chambers receive, some of the chambers give, and some of the chambers are receiving from itself, from your own body, and they're giving to other aspects of your body. And so this function of receiving and giving is the function of the heart. If your heart is in any level of balance, that's what it's doing, and it's doing a good job of it. If your heart is not doing a good job of that, you are not in balance. Now, one of the things, you can be out of balance and saying, give me all the time. Those are selfish people, greedy people, etc., because you keep wanting more and more. In some cultures, that person is called a hungry ghost. They keep getting fed, but they are not. Um, they can't fill themselves. They cannot feel fulfilled. Now, the other kind of dysfunction of that heart is when you're giving and giving and giving constantly, and you are not focused on um, receiving and taking care of yourself. Um, we all know that, for example, Mother Teresa had a long history of heart problems because this is someone who was giving uh, non-stop. The only time she stopped giving was when she died. Um, and that's not balanced either. The universe isn't really asking us to do that. But in the transcendent heart, the transcendent heart has a whole lot of layers to it, a whole lot of chambers to it. And you'll forgive my foray into AI generated images here. That's the many-chambered heart. And we're going to talk about what these chambers look like. So when we start mapping the chambers of the heart, we have to start asking ourselves, besides pumping blood, what is it that the heart does? What are the dynamic aspects of a healthy heart? So when we're mapping the chambers of the heart, um, one of the most important aspects of that is your life, is survival, is security and protection. And your heart does that. And our hearts have done a really good job of that. And the reason I'm saying that is that you're here. If you weren't here, if your heart didn't do a good job, you would be somewhere else. Um, the other thing that the heart is, the healthy heart, the transcendent heart, the heart gives. And again, Mother Teresa being a distorted vision of what that giving is, because that giving has to be matched with receiving. You have to be accepting, and your giving and your acceptance has to be in some balanced relationship. Compassion is another aspect of the heart. Um, compassion for whom? Ultimately, compassion for all. Compassion for those who are closest to you. And that doesn't mean necessarily close physically. It doesn't even mean close familiarly. It's closeness that's determined by your situation. Uh, joy, happiness, fulfillment are also aspects of a healthy heart. If you don't know how to be fulfilled, you are not going to be happy. A sense of awe and a sense of wonder. How many of us have had an experience that just stops your rational brain from functioning, that is just this wonderful aspect that you are dealing with? And I see a few heads nodding here. Beauty is right there also. Being able to have an experience of beauty. And I'm going to hold this right here for a second because I want to give you an experience that give you an idea of what I mean by the damaged or the shrunken heart. These are two experiences that happened when I was still young and still in Camden, New Jersey, worst city in America. And in one instance, I guess I was like maybe 4 or 5 or 6. They had had a rainstorm, And my mother called us outside because there was a rainbow. And she says, "Oh, look." And she points and she says, "There's a rainbow." And my brother saw it. He's 4 years older. My sister saw it. She was like only 2 or 3 years old. I didn't see it. And I thought she was pointing to the telephone pole, and I didn't see any colors on the telephone pole. Or she was pointing to the top of a house, top of a building across the street, and I didn't see any colors there. And she took my head and she turned it where the rainbow would be, and I and she's pointing, and I said something like, "Yeah, okay, uh-huh," just to kind of, appease her, but I didn't see it. And a lot of everybody else had come out of the houses and they were pointing, and oh, this is so beautiful, and I felt um, left out. I felt diminished by that. That there's something happening, and everybody else can get it, but I'm not getting this. Um, some years later, we're living in another neighborhood. We moved an awful lot. Poor people do. And I had a route. My brother and I had these routes that we would ride our bicycles around this neighborhood. And we went to a particular place in the neighborhood. Um, and we knew that we would separate and we'd ride all around, but we knew to come back to what we called the resting place. And it was just a spot in an alley where you could sit down on a little concrete wall. And we sat there because we liked to breathe. And the air was different in this place, at this spot. And we couldn't describe it. It's just like we used to say we like the air. And actually went back and we told our mother that I like the air in this spot. And she'd say, "Well, what about the air?" I don't know. I just like the air there. And when we sat on this concrete, this low wall, right behind our heads, within, I'd say, a foot, there's this huge rose bush. Now, we had no idea that the smell of the flowers is what we were experiencing. Who would have told us that? So we were having an experience without knowing the experience, without fully appreciating the experience. Because for me, now, part of the experience of a rose is not just its scent, it's also its color, its shape, its the contours of it, the softness of it. I have a full sensory experience of roses now, and I didn't have it then. I couldn't even think about what that would be like. Okay, so let's go back to our list here. So, having a sense of beauty can be distorted through the damaged heart. You can expose someone to it. You can say, "This is beautiful," and they can't see it. They may not even be able to smell it. It is just because you are having the experience doesn't mean that they are too. Continuing on. Suffering, sacrifice, and grief. And I think that this is this is a very important aspect of the healthy heart, that you have to be able to process suffering. You have to be able to process sacrifice. You have to be willing to sacrifice. You have to be willing to have an experience of grief. A sense of mystery and secret, um, a sense of empathy, a sense of your own identity and the identity of others, a sense of sacredness and divinity. Um, to see not only divinity, but to see that there is this thing called a divine order or pattern, and that you're in it. A sense of attention, to be able to pay attention. Think of the number of people that we see in our society right now, today, who cannot direct their attention where they want it to go, where they are not able to give and to receive blessings. They're not able to give or receive praise. How many times do you see people deflect praise? Oh, this is not really anything. No, I don't know. Change the subject, that kind of thing. That's a sign of not having a healthy heart. Now, that of course you can wind up in ego land with that. Oh, yes, I want more praise. But that's a sign of also not having a healthy heart. Having a sense of aliveness all the way to fright. Now, I didn't say fear. Fear is this kind of constant gnawing, negative attention. But fright, how many of you have had something jump out at you and your heart starts pounding and your adrenaline is going and all of a sudden you are alive and you are ready to take action in some direction or another. A sense of nurturance, a sense of what your gift is. The young people are coming up nowadays who have no idea that they have a gift, or that what that gift is worth, what the value of it is, or what they think is their gift is really a contrivance. A sense of freedom, and freedom is something that can a sense of true freedom can lift your heart. A sense of bonding, a sense of wildness. How many of us go into the wilderness, go into nature, where you are overwhelmed by it? You get to understand exactly how small you are, and appreciate that. Grace, a sense of grace, a sense of innocence, and we can come back to that. And so those are the big ones for me. All of those are different chambers in your heart, and all of them need to be exercised, and exercised regularly. Now, these other ones, I think, are also chambers, but I'm not sure, I'm not as certain with these, so they're in not bold. So a sense of balance or harmony or enoughness, of you knowing how much is enough, a sense of fullness, of yes, I'm full, a sense of pleasure, a sense of surrender, patience, a sense of acceptance and understanding, abundance, wealth, and treasure. And yeah, that gets a little strange. But what I would think of as abundance, someone else may not. So I was in I was I was in a person's house in Sri Lanka, and when I went into, he invited me into his house, and I went to the living room. He had 10 of these huge bags of rice sitting in his living room. And he said, he hasn't taken this rice to market yet, but that was his rice. That was the rice that grew on his land. And that was his abundance. And with that, he was going to be able to pay bills, buy food, buy his uniforms for his children to go into school. He, I was, he didn't have a bank account. That was his bank account. And his bank account has grown out in his fields. And he had I mean, you could tell he had a sense of the wealth that this represented for him, which I thought was interesting. Uh, a sense of eternity. We are very much attached. I'll speak for myself. I am very much attached to this body. Um, but I also know that at a given point in time, I'm going to let it go. Hopefully not tonight. Hopefully I can finish the session here. But um, at a given point in time, I will trade the body for another way of being, and that's going to be okay. And so I have a sense that will be okay. A sense of your knowing, a sense of intuition that you know the right thing to do. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think long about it. That is a trained experience for me. I didn't grow up thinking that way. A sense of synchronicity, a sense of flow that you are in the flow, and things are generally going the way you want them to go. Um, a sense of communication. This is, I think, can be a big one. When you're talking to someone and you don't know that you're getting through to them, you don't know that this is that you are actually communicating with them. Um, okay. Ah, a sense of your success, a sense of accomplishment, um, having a sense of satisfaction. Okay, so I'm going to leave this up for a bit. Actually, I guess I can't and see all of us. So I can put it back up if anybody has any questions about it. But let's pause for a second. That's a lot of information there. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to share around any of these aspects of the chambers of the transcendent heart, of your larger sense of your heart? Heart beyond ventricles. And one of the things that I have a tendency to do is, okay, nobody put their hand up. I'm going to keep talking now. And I'm not going to do that. That's why I have this teacup here to put tea in my mouth so that I will stop. I will not jump right into it. And I thought I saw somebody unmute themselves.
So I just want to shake. I mean, I just want to embody or connect or something. I feel like if I just sit and listen and look at the screen and look at everybody else's face, I'm just going to be frozen, and that's not good for my body or my heart.
Mhm.
And I don't know if anybody else is feeling that way or how you might like to lead us in such a move or practice, or whether I'm just going to do this by myself, but I wanted to honor the teaching by making it engaging in the space instead of just turning off my screen and doing it by myself.
Um, if you turned off your screen and did it by yourself, what would you be doing?
I would be moving around the space and dancing um, and just giving my body time to catch up and process and receive.
Mhm. Um, well, number one, thank you for sharing that. I mean, we all learn in different ways, and we um, the I don't have anything. I have some small group work that we do, but you're still going to be sitting and watching and talking. And the reason for that is we're all obviously very obviously in different spaces, and when I do that, when I either I lead people, we're in the same spot at the same time, and we're affecting each other's fields. Um, I can't. I'm not imagining. Okay, so like about half of us aren't visible on the screen. Our videos are muted, are off, and so I hear that, I honor it. I don't know how to honor it, and if you need to do well, we are going to take a break in a few minutes, at the top of the hour. But if you need to do that, I'm going to invite you to do that. I, there's a part of me that would invite you to leave your camera on so you can see what you're doing, but that could be distracting for people who don't do that. Okay. Um, but yeah, thank you for sharing that. Kathy, I don't know if you want to chime in on this, or you're raising a different issue.
Yes, yes. First of all, I can't dance right now, but I hope that Anne does it in front of me. I would hope that. I would love that. But I do have a question, Sharif, and that question is, you didn't come to these intellectually with the snap of your fingers. Maybe you started out, I don't know how you started. What was the process that you went through to be enlightened with these?
Hmm. Um, Very good question. So good, I'm writing it down here. Um, Let me try to give you a 2 or 3 minute version of this. Um, that's not possible because I have to tell you the problem and then I have to tell you the solution. So it's going to take about 5 minutes. Would you mind if we came back to that after we took a break? Because I think I would like to give you a full answer. Okay?
That's fine. Mhm.
Other questions, comments, thoughts, opinions? So you know that with Zoom, there's this digital hand you can throw up, but you also can wave your meat hand around, and I will see it. So I recognize digits and meats. I'm not seeing any other. Anne, yes. Or are you clapping? I couldn't
Now,
see.
I was confused about the sim signs. So you got a variety of digital hands
Oh,
that I didn't
oh.
intend.
Yes.
Uh,
You can do all
The
sorts
theme
of stuff.
is movement
Yeah. Mhm.
somehow. Um, so when you were talking about the people in traditional societies who have preserved their connection to land for generations or thousands of years, and what kind of um, protection that is and support for heart-centered living, um, I felt scared, like I'm not going to have, I don't have that. I'm not going to have that. You know, there is no plot of land, there is no family compound to return to. And then when you went through all of these features of the transcendent heart, I thought, oh yeah, okay, I know how to work on those. I'm, you know, like I've had experience cultivating those and
Mhm.
experience them as healing.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm curious about the relationship between those two.
Mhm. Um, let me say this, and just like Kathy, I may have to come back to this for a little fuller. Um, Number one, I've been to 45 different countries around the world. I've been to, I'd say 120 to 140 different cultures. And I'd say a good number of them, maybe 30 or 40 of them, are indigenous cultures, cultures where people have been in and on the land, hopefully healthy, but in some cases not, that have been on the land for hundreds or thousands of years. And I am not, all my land you see is in the pots on these plants here. Yeah, so that's my and I guess if you cremate me, you could pour me as fertilizer on the plants here. Um, so no, I don't have that as an experience. I don't I know that there's something missing by not having that experience. But I also know that I can exercise that chamber of my heart as well as I can with the experiences that I've had around the world, with the experiences I've had right here around Portland. I've got this little tiny park that's about a block and a half that way. Takes about, I'd say 4 to 5 minutes to walk all the way through this one block park. But I do it. I will actually walk up to the trees, and they're actually, well, we have a great Parks and Recreation department. They put these metal plaques right on the tree saying this is a such and such and this is a such and such. I know that when I'm leaning against that tree, I know I'm leaning against a such and such, a sycamore or whatever. And I can wring out of that experience as much energy as I possibly can. Can I become like Langdon and his son, where when I talk about my ancestors, when they talk about their ancestors, they're all sitting right there in a plot of land and turning into the fertilizer that feeds the compound. Okay. And Langdon knows that's where he's going to go. Now, no, I don't have any experience with any with any land like that. But I can go down to this park here and I can walk the park in such a way that I'm respecting all the beings in the park. And when I walk that park, it expands my heart just a bit. And then it does it a bit more and a bit more. And yes, I can go over to Forest Park, which is like one of the largest urban parks in the world, and I can. That's a whole different one. That's a whole different experience. It takes 40 days to get from walk from one end of the park to the other. I've never done it. Um, just even talking about it, maybe I should do that. Um, I'll let you know. So I can have those experiences, um, and each one of them, if I am fully paying attention, can expand my heart that much more. If I'm paying attention to where my food comes from, I have a friend that came over for dinner and brought me these very strange looking potatoes. Now, I'm used to potatoes. They come in a bag and they're round, they're roundish, etc. These were shaped like I don't know what, and they were tiny and they were weird looking. And she said, I just dug them up. And my first thought was, dug them up from where? Where were they? I'm really into this land thing, this nature thing, you know. But yeah, when I ate those potatoes, I had a different relationship to them. So I guess what I'm saying is that everything can give you this sense of relationship. Once you're aware of all these different chambers that are being fed, you can be fed differently. You can be fed deeply. You can be fed, and one way of being heart fed feeds another way of being heart fed. Remember, the heart doesn't just pump out, it receives. So this out and out and in is part of this very dynamic process. Um, some parts of my heart are underdeveloped. A whole lot of my heart has been underdeveloped, and so I've got to compensate, and I compensate by other parts being overdeveloped. And so and we'll be talking about the damage to the heart when we come back from a break. That if we don't take it now, we're not going to ever take it. So I will keep strict time, let's say 4 minutes. That's enough time to get to a bathroom and get back without dawdling. No dawdling in the bathroom. And we will continue on and look at some other things. Be right back. Okay. Got another minute. And at this point, I'm not sure how much more we're going to get to because uh, um, the couple of questions that we had, I think it's more important to stick with the questions than whether or not I'm going to cover my outline or not. So, um, I like my outline, but I like your questions better. So I'm gonna do what we need to do. Um, and got less than a minute to go now. And I'm gonna take a look at something. I'm gonna be brave here. Okay. Oh, we got to do a couple of these. Okay. Um, I am uh, we are ready, and what I'm going to do is come back with um, Kathy's question. Um, I talk about um, um, my upbringing in Camden, um, and I make jokes about um, Camden being the worst city in America. It is Time Magazine's worst city in America. Um, beats out everybody else by a long shot. Um, I joke about the fact that when National Public Radio went looking for the worst high school in America, they went to my alma mater. Um, uh, I joke about we had in my high school we had a high body count before it became fashionable, but because we were black and brown kids beating up and killing other black and brown kids, it never made the news. Um, the year that I left Camden, a kid opened up in the Thanksgiving turkey game, brought a machine gun and mowed down, killed 12 kids. And it barely made the news in Philadelphia across the river. If you had killed a white kid, that would have been news around the world. Um, so I was raised in the worst parts of the worst city in America, um, on welfare, broken home, uh, in poverty, in public housing, and um, not only survived, but have thrived. I'm um, I've been married. I've have three wonderful daughters. I have three wonderful grandsons. Okay, I have to brace myself as I get to the last part of this. I am now officially a great grandfather. I don't understand how this works. I don't understand how people keep changing their status and it makes mine change. I don't get it, but that's another story. Um, so all those layers have affected me. More than that, they're the interpersonal aspects of heart damage. The idea of not being seen, the idea of not being loved, the whole notion of um, the expression of love. Um, it's something that I heard about. It's something that I've seen on television, but I don't have an experience of it. Okay. Now, I knew because I'd seen it on TV and I'd read it in books. I knew it was really important that I actually physically touch my children. Okay. And not just in a antiseptic way. I'm going to touch you while I'm changing your diaper, but I needed to hold my daughters. I needed to play with my daughters. And I remember the first time we brought her home, and she was asleep in the crib. And I remember looking into the crib and saying, I got to pick her up. I got to do this. You know, it's like I can do this. And I did. I got used to it. I played with them and things like that. But you have to. These are things in with people with healthy hearts. This comes naturally. It just you play with the kids, you squeeze them, you tickle them, you do all this other stuff, and it has never come naturally. It has never been a flow. And in a way, I am diminished by that. But in another way, because I've been outside of that, I get to approach this with new eyes. And I knew from a very early age that I had to do things differently from what I was taught. Now, when you ask the question, um, what was the process? I'm not sure there was a process. I I I say the reason I'm not dead, or the reason I'm not still in Camden, is grace, is the grace of God. And my job has been to pay attention to that grace. I don't, I didn't always see it. Sometimes I saw it and didn't know how didn't know how to interpret it. Sometimes I saw it, I knew how to interpret it, but I didn't know how to interpret it consistently. I didn't know that there was anything I could do about it. Um, so, um, two quick stories, and then we got, I got only 25 more slides to go through here. Um, I'm trying to get the two quickest here. Um, when I was about 11 or 12 years old, I encountered um, the work of Malcolm X and a few other people. This was before there was even such a thing. This is before the term Black Power ever came up. We didn't even know what to call what we were doing. Um, and I was very affected by Malcolm X. And he was saying that, I'm putting this in my language now, creating a world that works for all would mean creating a world that works for all black people because all white people were fine. We had TV sets. We could watch y'all. Okay, Ozzy and Harriet were having a ball, so we were looking at creating a world that works for black people. So I helped to form an organization um, called the Black People's Unity Movement. We did all sorts of pretty wild things, and I'm very happy we did them. And but I started seeing that that's the place I started seeing that there was something wrong with our hearts. So we're doing these actions out there, and all of us were drug addicted. All of us were alcoholic. I started drinking when I was 12 years old. Um, had gray hair and lines in my face at 16 years old from drinking. Um, had a bleeding ulcer by 17, so I had to make a transfer over to drugs because it's better for your stomach. Um, and and I was on a spiritual quest, but I didn't know how to be on a spiritual quest in a society that was so despirited. And it took me having experiences literally outside of my culture, outside of my location, etc., in order to get enough heart energy to start pulling in more heart energy and get to the point where I could say, I'm now consciously working to end this damaged heart. Um, and to, to recognize that ending the damaged heart for me meant that it has to end for everybody else. We are not isolated. I keep trying to say this to folks. Um, the folks who go to their church and they're singing the choir and they go to the pancake breakfast and that's all they do. That's their expression in the world. And you're supposed to be doing an awful lot more than that. Okay. Um, so um, uh, I'm still in progress. I think a month doesn't go by before I say, wow, that's really interesting. This process of doing this gathering right here, um, the slides I've been working from are 12 years old. I've changed so much in the last 12 years. I'm looking at these words that I'm using, but I'm being affected by it in a really, really different way. And Kathy, I don't know if that is responding to you the way you need to be responded to. I or if you have another level of question that you want to ask.
If that was immensely interesting. And of course, there's another level
Yeah.
that I have, and that is you talk about grace, but all of us have grace. There are thousands of boys who grew up in Camden, even at the time you did, who had so many experiences and uh, felt despondent about the world, as you must have, challenges. What made you different?
Um, well, I get to talk about stuff I don't usually talk about. Um, when I was born, I had a veil, and for some cultures, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you don't, then that's considered a spiritual sign, um, that you have a spiritual calling. Um, um, that has been with me since I remember going to church and being really affected by church, being really affected by the things that we were saying. Oh, and this is an Episcopal church, and my mother raised us as Episcopalians only because it was the closest church by, and you didn't have to walk that far to get to church. That was the criteria for Episcopalianism. Um, um, I kept wanting more and more from the church, and the church wasn't supplying it. Um, so there was this deep sense early on that everything that I was looking at was wrong. I remember having this feeling that there is this ideal world that is possible. The world is that it's not utopian. We can make this world actually work for people. And then I could look around Camden, and this world was not working for anybody. And my notion was bringing these two visions, the negative vision and the positive vision, bringing them into some kind of a relationship. So when I was 7 or 8 years old, we were uh, moving yet again, and the landlord was moving us into a house that had this big sign on the front of it that's, and I could read at that age, and it said condemned. And I'm looking at, by order of the sheriff, this is it, and the owner goes up to the door and he snatches the sign down and he looks at me and he says, "Don't worry about it, kid." And that was all the repairs he made to the house. And we moved into this house where when it would rain, the rain would come sheeting down the walls, inside walls. And needless to say, it was a mess. When we flushed the toilet, it went into the basement. I mean, literally, it went into the basement, and it only took a couple of months before we were forced to move out of there. Um, but in this, we can't see or determine what we receive, but we can we can deal with the best way we can with what we are being handed. I think an awful lot about Nelson Mandela. All the stuff that I've dealt with pales to insignificance next to spending 29 years of your life in solitary confinement. The only human beings that you see are human beings that hate you. See, even in a regular prison, there's the guards, but then there's these prisoners. Some of them may turn into friends. Maybe you may like them, or you may ignore them, or whatever. But in Robben Island, every single human being that he encountered hated his guts. And he endured that for 29 years and came out smiling. And when I see him, I know I've got more further to go because I'm still working on the smiling part. um, um, so I'm looking at Nelson Mandela. Somebody else may be looking at me. That person may be looking at them, and all of us together are looking at changing a society where none of us have to experience the traumatic things that we have created in our world. And Greg, is your hand actually up, or are you resting, or you okay? I can't hear you. I'm going to assume that you're okay since I can't hear you. Okay, yeah, there you go. Um, okay, I'm going to determine that question, answer it as sufficiently as I can without going into this at a deeper level. However, we may go ahead and do a session, a few weeks from now, well, maybe in the new year, to talk about our spiritual path and how that actually um, uh, manifests and how we ignore it, how we misconstrue it, how we walk a lighter path. Um, okay, I'm I'm going back to doing some slides. Okay, um, and okay.
Thank you.
No, well, no,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you for asking, and I'm still I still haven't done it, haven't given you a full answer. I don't know if I have a full answer yet. I'm still working on it. And I'll let you know how it comes, how it turns out. I'll look at these slides 12 years from now and see how it affects me. Okay. Um, hang on. This
Yep.
is um, I am. I think that no one on YouTube has seen the last hour. So, oh well, I'll post it up on I'll post the recording up. Um, okay, so here is how, how do hearts get activated? Okay, how do we how do we open ourselves? How are our hearts opened? What we do is um, get heart activation. Your basic heart activation is your mother. Okay. I know that, the current hip thing to say about when a couple is having a baby, that we are having a baby. If you've ever experienced birth, there ain't no we doing it. She is doing all of it, and you're sitting there like with pom poms saying "Go team, go!" And she's out on the field getting birthing an entire human being out of her body. It was pretty amazing. But something happens in that process of mother and child where that child gets activated. If you look at the right-hand column, the heart activation stages, one of those stages happens while the child is still in the womb. Most cultures have words for it. We call it quickening. At the time that the heart starts having a real beat that you can feel, that you can hear. There's a nurturing that comes in the womb. You're in the womb for 9 months for a reason. You are supposed to get something, and in a healthy environment, you get that. And the thing that you get is love. The thing that you get is caring and nurturing. I didn't get that. My mother tried to abort me. I had my own agenda, so that's why I'm here. But and I I don't blame her for doing it. It was a tool that was not available at the time, which is why I'm here. But there's all sorts of nurturing you're supposed to get, and things that open up all those chambers of your heart. And I didn't get it. Um, the first 24 hours of your birth, you get an awful lot of heart activation. You get the heart activation, um, all the things that are happening, the immediate and transformative environment change. Um, you get a lot of who you are and who you become from that. The first year, again, you're getting sorted out as a human being. And then your tribe continues that process. Oh, you didn't have a tribe? Well, guess what? We missed a lot. Um, your culture gives you a connection. Um, Back to tribe for a second. I was with a group of people. I'm trying to remember where. We were outside, and there's a whole lot of food, and um, the kids were literally running around this table, around where the adults were sitting. And the adults were all talking to each other, but every once in a while, the adult would reach back and would grab one of the kids, and the kid would kind of squeal and laugh and twist away, and they keep running, and somebody else would grab another kid, and that kid would, they were playing with each other, but they were also being supported by the adults there. I just thought that was so healthy, you know. Now, in that same group, when a kid started acting up, all the adults just withdrew from them. Just at that point, you just stopped existing. And that kid felt it immediately and got back in line. They kind of figured out that there's a line, and this is the other side of the line. How many kids in our society have no idea where the line is, or that there is a line? Um, so you get your activation through your mother, through your other parenting, through your immediate family, which means your brothers and sisters, etc. Um, and that is a very powerful connection. So your heart activation behaviors, um, starting at the bottom, eye contact is really, really important. If you see kids who are living in cultures that don't have these devices, the way they interact with you, when they're talking to an adult, they look right in your eyes. Um, it's a very strange feeling. Um, Kids in typical American culture, they're bouncing all over the walls. Even if they're talking to you, they talk to you like this. They like, yeah, I want to go to the movies and I want to go to da da da, but they don't focus. My eldest daughter was focusing. She could make eye contact and was focusing before she left the womb. She was, I'll tell you the date, her birth circumstances another day, but we were in the ambulance. She had been born out to her waist. The ambulance driver who had had experience in birthing babies was behind the wheel. The guy that was in the back with us, with me and my wife and my child, had never seen a baby born before, and he was freaking out. He kept saying, pull it out, pull it out. And I'm like, why? It's like, you know, nice, warm, still sitting in her bath. Why pull her out? But from that time, like I said, I didn't know whether I had a girl or a boy. She'd look at me and her mouth was moving. She was not crying. She was trying to tell me something. And she was like really earnest about this. Like, and she was looking around the ambulance, and I'm supporting her like this. And she looked back at the ambulance attendant who's not attending anything and started crying. Like what's he doing here? So, so eye contact, compassion, physical touching, physical contact, that is amazingly important. And it's something that I still work through. Okay. If I'm in a culture, almost any other culture, and any non-European culture, people will talk, well, while they're talking to you, they'll put their arm on your shoulder, hand on their shoulder, hand on your arm, hand on your leg. If you are in Balinese culture, women will pat you on the butt to get your attention. And the first time this happened, it was like, lady, do I know you? It's like, is this a message or some kind, etc.? But no, it wasn't. It was, yeah. Um, in some cultures, you pat children on the head when you are talking to them. In Balinese culture, you better not touch that child's head. It's considered spiritually offensive. Found that out the hard way. And being in empathetic communication and dialogue with others, especially as adults, is something that gets your heart working. Just as I was sharing my upbringing with you, my heart started doing strange stuff here. Um, I keep lots of tissues on my desk so that if I start crying, and I do that not on cue, um, I can I can continue my process here. Um, and all of these experiences aren't to be stifled, but are to be experienced, to be like, yeah, let's actually get this done. Um, we have another 15 minutes to go, and I don't know if can we stay connected for 15 past the hour? I don't know if how many of you, some of you are East Coast and it's late. Um, well, I'm going to press on. I'm going to stop at the top of the hour. If you've got to go, that'll be a good opportunity for you to go. But I'd like to get to a few more of these and have another Q&A time so that we can wrap up in a good way. So let me hit the magic button again. So in a balanced heart, your chambers are open appropriately because sometimes that chamber has to close and give. Sometimes it opens and receives, but when it's supposed to open, it should be open. And when it's supposed to be giving, it's supposed to be closed. Um, it should be open, active, resilient, flexible, give, hold, receive, hold, give, hold, receive, hold. When you have that rhythm, you're going to have a very balanced heart. Appropriately stimulated, not drugged. There should be some level of balance across these multiple chambers, some level of connection between these chambers, and it should be light. Your heart should not be heavy and dense and yeah. So when you are satisfied, you feel a level of heart balance. How many of us in the society, though, actually feel satisfied? You can look at a person's face and they can have all the things going on for them, and that you can see that there is still a hunger there, a spiritual hunger that I talk about in my book, Creating a World That Works for All. A starvation, a soul starvation. If you want to see what I'm talking about, just look at Donald Trump's face. Here's someone who supposedly has everything that he has ever asked for. And all of it, none of it shows up. None of it shows up as any level of satisfaction. Um, the Chinese call it being a hungry ghost. You know, you can't actually be fed. So the fruit of the balanced heart is an indwelling love, that there's love right here. You don't need to get it from anybody else or anything else. It actually resides inside your heart. A sense of grace, a sense of fulfillment, tenderness and vulnerability, which was very systematically bred out of us in Camden, New Jersey. Any level of showing any level of vulnerability was not good. Being sensitive was not good. I can also say, by the way, being intelligent was really, really bad. When I was growing up, you get your books in the beginning of the semester, and I stole an extra set of books so I could carry them home, and I could actually do homework without being seen that I was actually doing homework or carrying books around, Because if you carried your books around, you get your butt kicked. Um, you have a sense of protection and safety at the level of the heart. A sense of peace, wow, a sense of gratitude. And back in Camden, I would say, what do I have to be grateful for? And the answer that I experience now is a lot, a whole lot. And I'm glad that I'm able to experience those things now. A number of people a number of people and circumstances around the world has helped me to see that um, see and be grateful. I tell a story, and this happened in Sri Lanka. Um, I did a lot of work in Sri Lanka with an organization called Sarvodia. But this, I was walking downtown. I had to get something from downtown, and I was having one of those days, where everything's going wrong. Couldn't find what I was looking for. Had to walk from one area to the other. It was a hot day. The capital city in Sri Lanka stinks. I mean, literally, it smells bad. And it was hot, it was muggy. I was in the middle of my pity party, and there's this old Dutch Reformed church, and there was a man standing in front of it. He was only wearing this dirty sarong, and he had leprosy, so his hands and his feet were gone, just had stumps. And he's in front of the church and he's praying. Now, I can't understand what he's saying, but he has where his hands would be, or up in supplication, up in prayer, and he's saying a prayer. And I knew that he was praying for someone not as fortunate as he was. And that's something that changed my perspective. Here I am, well-fed Westerner, you know, transportation of various kinds at my fingertips, etc. And um, I'm taking pity on me because I have to walk 6 blocks to find some electrical device I need. And he's praying for someone who is not as fortunate as he is, as a leper with no hands and feet. And that is something that's encouraged me to actually pay attention to what's going on and to stop being wrapped up in this preoccupation with myself. It's a habit, and we can change the habit. So about a week or two ago, I was at the coffee house I usually hang out at, and uh, I was talking with a friend, and I don't know how the subject got to um, um, talking about Nelson Mandela and what he had to suffer at the hands of his tormentors at Robben Island. I had ordered my coffee, but they don't have to, but they usually bring my coffee to me. And this time they not only didn't bring it, but they didn't tell me that they had put it on the counter. So it had been sitting on the counter for 3 whole minutes. And So I'm talking to my friend about, 29 years on Robben Island and being tortured and beaten, etc. And then I look up and say, "Why didn't you bring my coffee to me?" And I caught myself. It's like, you know, um, get a grip, and unfortunately, a lot of the people in my orbit, a lot of the young people, have no idea where the grip is. Everything that's happening in the world is happening to them, and it's all happening terribly. And we can change that. We can twist that to the point where we can be grateful for everything that is happening, uh, including the things that may not be that nice that's happening, so that we can show our gratitude to our own hearts. Okay. Um, let's keep going here. So another thing that we share, that is the fruit of the balanced heart, is forgiveness, and being able to forgive and being able to receive forgiveness. The people who can't forgive, who cannot let go. Um, so when I was 16, I took a pretty bad police beating. We were, again, the organization that I had started, the Black People's Unity Movement, was for the police, public enemy number one. They were going out killing, literally killing the leadership in the organization. I was a leader, so I had my turn. So they beat me into a hospital. I was paralyzed from my neck down for about 3 days. And for the longest time, I said I was going to get retaliation in some way or another. And I realized that I had to let that go, that I was carrying that beating around with me. It resided in my heart. It never subsided. It never went away. And I had to make this thing go away. And it took some time to do it. I had to um, literally change my position so I could see from the eyes of these police officers that what I was doing with the BPUM was not noble, was not, wise, was not, and I was just a troublemaker, and they're going to get me in line. Um, it does not condone their behavior, but I could um, begin to understand it. Um, the fruit of the balanced heart is also flow, and the times when we feel like things are just cooking right along, um, where you don't have to apply a whole lot of thinking to a process to know that you're where you need to be, you're doing what you need to do, everything is really okay. A sense of wholeness. And this one's really hard, a sense of home. Hard for me in Camden. Every single place that I've ever lived doesn't exist anymore. They've torn them all down. And what they put in its place isn't much better, but I don't have a sense that's not my home. I've lived in Portland for 35 years or so. This isn't my home either. I don't think I have one. Um, the closest I came to having a home was Brighton Bush Hot Springs, and it burned down. So, ta-da! Here I am. I'm uh, I'm in conversation with Elon Musk now. I'm going to be on the first rocket to Mars. Maybe that'll be my home. Our conversation is only one way. but it doesn't stop it from being there. Okay, I'm going to stop playing here because I'm not going to touch this one. I'm not, permission and volition is a really big issue. We could do a whole workshop on that, and it's just there. Okay, so let's look at what the unbalanced and damaged heart looks like. However, I'm going to stop sharing here. And I'm going to say it looks like I've got 10 more minutes or maybe 15 minutes. If you can hang in there, fine. If not, everybody who is registered for this through Zoom is going to get the recording. I'm putting the recording of this for those who are still hanging in there from um, YouTube. I'll put the recording up on YouTube. So if you are part of my channel, then you'll get that. Um, Hopefully you can hang in there. I don't see anybody saying goodbye, so you can hang in there. Oh, somebody has to teach school tomorrow. Okay, see you. Um, oh, Angie, are you leaving also? Oh, okay, good. Um,
No,
so,
I was just leaving Adam, so
yeah. Um, the so I will keep going as fast as I can. So the unbalanced and the damaged heart is blocked, and you know how many times there are heart surgeries going on when the actual physical muscle of the heart gets blocked. That blockage can be translated into the transcendent heart, where one or more of your chambers just don't work. It can be cloaked or hidden, where people hide aspects of their heart. Some of the things I've talked about today are things that I'm not particularly proud of that has happened in my life. Um, Things that are really easy to just act like they didn't happen, but they did happen. So here we go. Um, where we get armored, and you can see people who are armored. Um, your chambers can become atrophied if you don't use them. Your heart can undergo starvation. Now, there's a term for that when your physical heart has chambers blocked so that your heart isn't getting enough blood to feed it. Um, but that can happen to all of your other chambers also. You can experience conflicts inside your heart. You can be confused, and I mean confused. Your chambers can fuse together so that it experience further unbalanced, congested, lopsided, or unbalanced. And I already talked about Mother Teresa on the one hand. Um, Inappropriately exercised and inappropriately stimulated. One of the things that happens around damaged hearts is that you don't know how to love. And so what gets called love tends to be some kind of um, addiction and some kind of a perversion, um, where you are trying to get love, but it doesn't register, or it registers really inappropriately. Um, I can give you a whole bunch of examples of that. So negative activations breed hard-heartedness, and that can look like fear, acting out, addictive behaviors, denial, numbing, deadening, shutting down behaviors, And you can see people who are shut down. Inattention, isolation, invalidation. Um,
Sharif, can you share your slide again?
oh, gee, thank you. I can't see who said that, but thank you. I can see it. Okay. How about we start that over again? So, so fear, acting out, addictive behavior, denial, numbing, deadening, inattention, unacknowledgement, isolation, inability to relate, turning away, non-experience. And I see this happening all over the place. Portland used to be this place where people would you could start up a conversation with anybody at a drop of a hat anywhere. And now people don't make eye contact with each other. You can't talk to other people. Um, there's a turning away, and that hardens your heart. Whoops. Depression and suicide is at a rampant level. If you haven't seen my TED Talk, how many of you see my TED Talk? Okay, let me get that in the chat box to you as soon as I can, doing 3 or 4 different things at once. Um, Depression and suicide, control and manipulation behaviors, power over behaviors. And I've just about got it here. So what I'm going to put in the box right now, in the chat box, is a lot of, oops, where's my chat? There's the chat. A lot of contact information for me, including my books. But the last thing in this list, I guess it helps if I actually send it to you, is the TED Talk where I talk about depression and suicide in the middle of it. And that should be, I hope you find that interesting. Okay, so number 8 is control, manipulation, and power over. Escapism. Has anybody ever heard that before? I mean, Netflix and the other media empires are there because we can't live with the world that we've created. Isn't that interesting? So, the situation with Langdon and his son going, and me being honored by being invited to the village to watch the son dance for the first time. That is an escapism that's being rooted, I mean, like rooted in actions and ceremonies that have existed for 1,000 years. He's wearing his father's dance costume, and his father wore it from his father all the way back. Okay, that is the opposite of escapism. I've talked to people around the world who have never seen the television, which is really interesting, how they encounter the world. Okay, so number 10 is low self-esteem, no self-worth. Or all of your esteem is from externals. You know, I have a really nice suit, so I'm a good person. But when I take the suit off, who do I become? I am I have a great car, but who do I become when I don't have the car anymore? Okay, shoot, I got to do this one too, real quick. And I promise this. This is going to be my last one. So, what is the fruit that this damaged heart provides? Okay. Hurt, guilt, shame, people who get really, really jealous, a sense of emptiness, a sense of lack, a sense of disconnection, a sense of having to get revenge, frustration, dissatisfaction, hate. People who hate have a damaged heart. And if you see it that way, you resisting their hate is feeding the damage in their heart. Their heart gets stronger in its damage. We have to do something else. Fear, greed, confusion, what we call heartlessness, denial, inferiority, a sense of inferiority and or a sense of arrogance, and a sense of being discouraged. Okay, that has got to be my last slide tonight. That's my last slide tonight. Okay. Any questions, comments, thoughts, opinions? See some hands moving around or see some digital hands. I bet your name's not Samsung, but
Helena,
Helena, okay.
sorry about that. I think I didn't sign in very well. Um, no, so I know your time's up, but will there be a follow-on to talk about the healing part, how to get from the damage to the healthy?
Um, yes-ish. This, and I was thinking that maybe I made a mistake in doing this. This is 2 hours out of a 2-day workshop. We skated across the pond. We didn't go at any level of depth, and the depth is there to be had. The exercises are there. I've only done this live. I've never done it by Zoom, so I don't know how to do some of these exercises. They're exercises that, for example, you send energy to another person through the palms of your hand. Well, you can see my palms, but they're images. They're not. It's not. You don't get a chance of. And so one of the things I say is, do you feel the energy? Okay, one hand is down, one hand is up. Do you feel the energy leaving or going out of the hand that's down and into the other person's hand? Do you feel the energy coming in from your hand that's up? But I can't do that. So I would have to redo that, recreate that, or we do it local. Or we do it blended, like you get a group where you are. Where are you, by the way, if I can ask?
I'm in San Diego, California area.
Okay. So, uh, you know, you get a group there, and all the others of you get groups wherever you are. And then we do a hybrid of, I'd have a group here in Portland, and we'd each do our exercises in each area. And that would save all of us from having to fly to San Diego and you having to host all of us. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking about that. It's a lot of logistics to pull that off, and I'd only do that if there were a lot of people interested, and I don't know who would be interested in continuing this. I think it's really, really important. But then I'm not the one that has to be thinking that. The people who are taking it would have to think that. So we'll see.
Mhm.
I,
Okay.
I will have a evaluation coming out of this, and I will, um, if you say, yes, I want to continue and I would like to do, the full workshop, etc., then I'll look at that and how we can make that happen. Um, Something else before the next question comes up. Um, I said there'd be a place for voluntary donation. I put everything together today except for that. So when I send out the recording to folks, I'll put that in there too, and I'd appreciate it if you are as generous as you can be. Um, there is not continuing support for the things that I'm doing here, so your support is actually supporting it. Um, uh, I don't have large corporate, transnational corporate sponsors. I'm not wearing a Coca-Cola t-shirt. So, yeah, if you can do what you can to help this along, I'd appreciate it. Any other questions or comments or thoughts? And I'm not seeing any hands waving around. And oh, Anne.
I'm curious whether you have any experience with energy work and those practices and how those are connected to this practice. There's a whole community of people who do that work online and over distance, but I don't know what your take on that is or how it's connected or
Uh,
not connected.
yeah, I um, you asked the question in layers. I'm going to try to unpack the layers. Yes, I've had um, experiences with energy work. I This is energy work in some ways. Like I said, 12 years ago, I was doing these all face to face. Did Zoom exist 12 years ago? I don't remember. It seems like it's always been there. Um, and so, um, so I have not had experience where I have positive experiences with Zooming and doing energy work. Um, I think that that works when the group has a prior relationship with itself. Um, so if people are face to face doing something and then they carry that back and do it um, over devices, then I think that that could work. But I can't say that it doesn't work. But I personally have not had an experience of it, and we're trying to make it work right now. Um, we're doing something that we're calling holonic catalyst meditation. Um, Two or three of our folks are online right now. One left already. Um, and How do you build this kind of a connection that's happening um, multidimensionally? But how do you build it in this dimension? Um, we get to make it up as we're going along, and we got to see if it works as we're going along. Um, and do you have any particular practices that you are familiar with, or you practicing that you say that you can steer people toward saying that this actually happens over distance?
I can send you some information about stuff that have tried and know something about. I'm not an expert, but I went through a year or 2 years of energy work training. It's called energetic NLP. I mean,
Okay.
energetic NLP is what is the modality.
Mhm.
Art Geiser is the person who offers it. And I did a lot of work with them. And I've done unitive justice facilitator training, which is also about heart connection and unitive consciousness. And we did a whole year online.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I'll take a look at it.
I'm somebody who's been I've received. I have not led.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at it. We are crossing some really interesting territory in our meditations, our catalyst meditation. The purpose of our meditation is not um, internal, but is holonic, meaning we're meditating with all other beings. And the thing is, can we create openings and portals into a whole other dimensional reality? Um, and I can say, and if I'm saying too much, then there are a couple of people on the line that will um, yank my microphone here. Um, I'll say that something is opening up. Um, how it opens and whether we are in control of the opening or anything is in control of anything else, and whether it's happening in all the different locations we're doing this in, stay tuned. This is an experiment in the making, and we're approaching it as an experiment, which means that um, it can turn out the right way or it can turn out some other way, and it's all going to be the right way. So we'll let you know. Um, I am seeing that Kathy has her microphone on. I don't know if that means you want to
Oh,
acknowledge.
I didn't know that. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
Don't
I was chatting
you
and
be
I
sorry. Don't
probably hit the
be
wrong.
sorry. This is I should do a whole workshop on on people, especially North American women, to stop being sorry. Um, it's a habit.
Oh,
It really
okay, then let me be assertive.
ta-da.
My laptop needs plugging in, which is across the room. So I need to leave. And you can tell I really got a lot out of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
Bye.
Okay, bye. And I'm thinking that we are probably winding down here. So if we can do um, end with our inclusivity mantra. I might as well do the whole thing. Let me see if I got the whole thing slides up here. Um, I probably don't. And I'll do it without slides. So this is just something that we do at the end of each of our catalyst meditations. This is a prayer, but it's a prayer that even an atheist can say. Um, um, it's a modification of a Buddhist prayer. It has four um, levels to it. And the Buddhist prayer is, may all beings be well, may all beings be secure, may all beings be happy. So our level number 1 is, may I be well, may I be secure, and may I be happy. And the plane is in danger, you put the oxygen mask on yourself first. You can't save anybody else. You can't even be functional unless you put the mask on yourself first. Second level is, may you be well, may you be secure, may you be happy. And by you can either think of someone that is really easy for you to love, or you can think of someone who is very difficult for you to love. But either way, and actually both ways, you should be wishing them to be well, to be secure, to be happy. The third way is, may we be well. The people on this call and the people who would be on this call, may we be well, may we be secure, may we be happy. And then the fourth way is, may all beings be well, may all beings be secure, may all beings be happy. So you can say this along with me, or you can not as you choose. We will let's keep ourselves muted because we each have a different time frame, and it sounds cacophonous when we do that way. But I would encourage you to say it out loud in your room. Okay. May I be well. May I be secure. May I be happy. May you be well. May you be secure. May you be happy. May we be well. May we be secure. May we be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy. And so it is. And it's my last request of the night. If you can now turn your microphones on. For those of you who don't have your cameras on, if you can turn your camera on if you wish. But if you can turn your microphones on and say good night. So thank you for
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
forward to doing
Thank you. Thank you for everything you shared.
Thank you. Really
Gratitude.
special.
Yeah. See you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.